Very good evening. I am Shilpa and I welcome you all to the NCERT live phone-in program. Today our topic of discussion is Samagra Shiksha. Samagra Shiksha is an encircling program for school education sector with a broader goal for improving school effectiveness. And to discuss this topic in our studio we have Professor Sharad Sinha ji, who is designated as a professor and head of the Department of Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan Project Cell in NCERT. I welcome you, ma'am, on today's program.
Thank you, Shilpa, and good evening all the viewers.
So let's proceed to understand this very significant topic. First of all, ma'am, if you could just make us understand what exactly is this scheme?
See, Shilpa, first of all, I would like to tell that education is a very important tool for social and political transformation. And after the 1986 education policy, there have been lot of initiatives for improving the quality of education, be it the Shiksha Karmi project, Operation Blackboard, DPEP, Andhra Pradesh school primary education program, Bihar education project, Lok Jumbish project. Lot of efforts have been undertaken for improving the quality of school education. And with the RTE Act 2009, we saw, which aimed at universalization of elementary education, we saw the advent of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, and this Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan increased drastically the enrollment of children in the school, and lot of others, as education is a concurrent subject, it becomes important for the partnership of the state and the center in improving the education system as a whole.
Right.
So the Government of India has been implementing all the schemes at an integrated level at the national level, but in the state there are a lot of structures. There are district level structures, state level structures, block level structures, sub district level structure, that increases a lot of duplicity, that increases the duplicity, and of course there are a lot of parallel structures which come up. So in order to, after Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, we had in 2009 the Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan. This is again a centrally sponsored scheme in which there was a center state partnership for improving the quality of secondary education. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan catered the elementary level right from class 1 to 8. Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan was for 9th and 10th, for improving the quality, equity and access in secondary education.
Okay. So if may I ask, ma'am, what was the need? Why this kind of a scheme has been formed?
See, we are a diverse country.
Right.
As being a diverse country, and education is the core of all the educational, school education is the core of all the education reforms, and we need to have an integrated approach right from, as I said earlier, there were a lot of structures which are coming up, parallel structures, officials and duplicity of efforts. In order to avoid this and see education holistically and in an integrated form, this scheme was launched in the union budget, and moreover the Niti Aayog also in its action report had given that from the input based to outcome based education, school education, and this paradigm shift led the union government to announce about the integrated scheme of school education, that is Samagra Shiksha, in the last union budget.
Okay. So, ma'am, if we talk about the objective of it, because if it's a scheme, there must be an objective.
Yeah, there are the objectives are again. Before telling about the objectives, I would just like to tell you that this scheme caters to from school education holistically. That is right from preschool to, we call it -2 to +2, that is from preschool to secondary, senior higher secondary school. And moreover, in this scheme, another component of teacher education has also been integrated. And at the national, like this is the major objectives of the scheme is that is it is a centrally sponsored scheme,
Okay.
implemented along with the state, cooperation of the state, and it has the scheme has I would like to show the PPT please. It has a governing council and a project approval board.
Right.
This project approval board is chaired by Secretary School Education and Literacy, and this is supported by the technical support group.
Okay.
And this is further the technical support group of SSA, RMSA and teacher education of the Education Consultant of India, EDSL. This is the entire support that is given to it. And this is if there is a centrally sponsored scheme, there is something very crucial, that is the funding of the central sponsored scheme. So I would also like to show the funding patterns. Is the ratio of funding is 90-10. That is 90 is the share of the center and 10% is the share of the state. And this is for all 8 northeastern states, that is Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim and Tripura. And for 3 Himalayan states, that is Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And then for all other states it is 60-40 sharing pattern. And for the union territories it is totally 100% funded. So this is the funding pattern of the
Right. So ma'am, before we proceed, what I understood is this scheme, we can call it kind of umbrella scheme, and under which there are 3 further sub schemes like RMSAs and Service Shiksha and teacher education in that. Why the teacher education had been added to that?
Before that, I would just like to tell you some more things. That is the first the emphasis of this scheme was, first of all, to see the school education as an integrated whole and improve the quality of school education. Moreover, it also intends to focus on the 2 T's, that is the teacher and the technology. Then again, further it aims to improve the enhance the learning outcomes of children at all levels of schooling. Further, due to this scheme and the funding patterns, SSA had a different funding pattern, RMSA had a different fund distribution pattern. So it was becoming difficult for the state to have a synergy between these 2 levels. So flexibility, the scheme provides a flexibility for states and UTs to plan and prioritize their interventions. And teacher education, since teacher is very crucial element in the entire school education, teacher can be the it could be the strongest link of a school education system, and it could be the weakest link also. So an availability of converging these schemes together and availability of a complete overall resource envelope to the state, and the state has the flexibility to use this as per norms right from -2 to +2 level, and for the teacher education programs also.
So ma'am, here I would like to take one question from, as we talked about the technology in between our conversation. This question is from Vibhor. He wants to understand, please discuss Samagra Shiksha in the facet of ICT and inclusion in the same.
There is a lot of impetus, there is a lot of importance being given to technology. So to promote ICT in school education, way back in 2004, ICT at the school scheme was launched. Now this was by merging of computer scheme of education technology and computer literacy and studies in secondary schools. That was CLASS. That scheme was in 1984. Then this scheme was further revised in 2010 and 2011, and a component to develop quality digital contents and incentive for teachers, that is National ICT Awards for school. This was also introduced, and now almost 88,993, that is 60.8% of secondary and senior secondary schools, government and government aided, have been covered under the ICT at school schemes. So this also includes providing support for digital resources, digital infrastructures in the school, and ICT infrastructure under the scheme is also provided for teacher education institutes, that is the SCERTs, State Institute of Educations, the diets, BITES, etc.
Right. So ma'am, you just mentioned the word integrated scheme. So why it is much emphasized on integrated schemes?
See, the integration, it becomes, if I could explain you the structure, that is, suppose at the level of Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, that was for secondary, we had a state project director that subsumed, the RMSA subsumed earlier the schemes of IEDESS, that is Integrated Education for Disabled at Secondary School, ICT at School, Vocational Education, and Model Schools. Now, for all of these components, we had different people taking care of it. Different structures, parallel structures had come up. Similarly, there was a pedagogy coordinator in Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, and similar such structures. So, and lack of convergence and synergy between these two. So, viewing education as a whole, as we go up in a continuum, it is very important to develop a synergy between the systems as well as the school education. So, that was the rationale behind the implementation, so that we could see it as a complete whole and not in bits and pieces. Plus, the funds and finances is also a very important aspect, because as per the norms, if there are funds for envisaged for a special scheme, that is RMSA, it could not be utilized under SSA, or it would not be utilized for senior secondary schools, or it could not be utilized for preschools. Now, as per norms and as per the fund availability, it could be utilized as per the discretion of the state, when as per the need in whichever area it is. So, that flexibility is available in this scheme. This is a major feature of the scheme.
So, ma'am, I'm just coming back to again the same question, the major objective of this scheme, because we left this question.
The major objectives of the scheme, that is, I would like to just this is again the major objective of the scheme is to improve the quality of school education, providing access to education, and providing equitable access to education.
So, that's the major objective of this scheme. So, the next, ma'am, the various provision of the scheme, if you could just let us know.
It takes while I said that the scheme envisages the providing an equitable and inclusive quality education, and with the following principles, which I would be just like pointing out, that is a holistic view of education. The education is taken up as a whole. Then availability for all, equal opportunities to all, accessibility, that is nobody is left behind, the marginalized section, the SC, ST, and the children with special needs, and particularly the girl child is not left behind in the school. And of course, the importance of teacher, the facilitator, the teacher plays a major facilitator. So, to build the capacity of the teacher, to empower the teacher is also an important aspect. Then, as per the Right to Education Act, we have a moral compulsion that education should be accessible to all, universalization of education. And we, of course, when we had a scattered system, this was also creating a lot of trouble in management of the whole system. So, this leads to the converging and integrating the complete educational management and monitoring of the scheme also.
So, ma'am, you just mentioned about the children with special needs. So, here I would like to take one question which has been sent by one of our viewer, Latika. Latika, she wants to ask inclusion of children with special needs in education, how it is taken care of in this scheme.
Well, this is an interesting question. This looks at children of including children with all the children and including children with special needs, right, in a continuum, right from pre-nursery to 12th, and this includes there is a provision for children with special needs with one or the more disabilities, which have been mentioned in the Schedule of Disabilities of the Right to Persons with Disability Act 2016, whether they are irrespective of they are studying in a government school, an aided school, or a local body schools. And this works, there are a lot of provisions which I would like to highlight. That is a provision of they cannot be denied admission. Then of course appliances, assistive device for children with special needs as per their requirement. And then there are architecture barriers also. So that removal of, there are funds given for removal of those architectural barriers, making the movement easy in the classroom, labs, laboratories, toilets, everywhere. It's not only creating one ramp in the school, but wherever the children can go, these children, making the entire architecture of the school disabled friendly. Then providing various aids, assistive devices, learning materials, vocational training support, guidance and counseling to the children. There is a provision in the scheme as per the requirement of children with special needs. And of course, there is also a provision of sensitizing the teacher. Not every teacher is sensitized to the needs. So there is a provision for the building of capacity of teacher towards sensitizing them, involving them in children with special needs, and there is also provision for bringing in special educators at times when needed. Then support services in form of teacher educators, in form of various resource room to be established, various counseling and therapeutic services to be given to them. There are many provisions in the scheme.
So support services are these which you just mentioned.
Yeah, support services, and of course there's also a provision for providing an assistance if the child cannot come unassisted to the school. If a child with special need is unable to come to the school, there is a provision for providing assistant to bring that child to the school also. Assistant there's a provision for an escort.
So ma'am, considering the current scenario and educational system, like we talked about the scheme objective and it's why it is being launched, so is it actually that helpful if we just talk about in the current scenario?
Yeah, definitely it is going to be helpful, because we have seen the success of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Increased in enrollment, dropout rate decreased, there was retention has increased. We saw the numbers swell up to a considerable extent, and this again created a pressure on the secondary education system. More number of children started coming to the secondary, so we needed to develop an infrastructure for secondary education. And since the number of children are increasing in the school, we need to develop, we need to provide them with proper support system, that is infrastructural facilities, lab facilities, toilet facilities, everything, laboratories. And of course, even after that, we have to talk in terms of not only providing these facilities, quality education has to be given to them. That factor has to be taken care of.
Right. So ma'am, when they say quality education, so what it all includes?
See, basically the scheme envisages infrastructural development, creating spaces, bringing children to the schools. There are there are so many quality parameters which have been identified, and it not only and then classroom transaction, empowering the teacher, including making teacher digitally aware, improving the training programs, and constantly training. Even the states are coming up with training calendars, training programs, refresher courses, and training programs for the school leaders, school administrators also. So all these contribute, they holistically contribute to the quality. Quality is such a dynamic thing that you just cannot attribute it to one single thing. So all this, first creating an infrastructure, bringing all the children to school, providing them with equal opportunities, not leaving anybody behind. Even the girl child, from the marginalized section of the society, from the minority, from the areas which are not accessible, bringing them, or making a school or developing an infrastructure in the vicinity so that it is accessible to them, is done by this.
So more oftenly just people say that quality education, so that's why I just asked you to explain it. So here we have got a question from our YouTube live streaming, and the question is, ma'am, what will be the impact of Samagra Shiksha in rural societies?
Yeah, the scheme is definitely going to, I am very optimistic that through Samagra Shiksha, since we aim to uh, look through a holistic lens, I am sure with the synergies which have started developing in the state, and the fund flow which is happening, that could be wherever it is needed, it could be diverted as per the norms. It could definitely bring out sea changes in the way we have been looking at education. And of course, the any educational impact doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It takes some time, and definitely in the coming times we are going to see, with the will from the center to support the education and the energy from the state to take up this education in the whole in true spirit, I am sure it is going to help. And particularly since the scheme caters to government and government aided schools,
Right.
so it is rural, and with so many provisions for so many facilities, I am sure it is going to improve the facilities in the rural schools also, and definitely the impact would be seen a few years later.
So that's quite optimistic. Ma'am, here I will take another question. The Priyanka Chawla has asked about what kind of teacher training programs are conducted under this scheme.
For the teacher training programs, it is like NCRT, since there is a provision for in the teacher education scheme which I mentioned earlier, there is a provision for improving the quality of teachers through induction programs and refresher programs at time to time. Then SCRTs have been an academic authorities for implementing the RTE in the state. Of course, SCRTs also carry out various training programs in the state for diet faculty and for the teachers at the scale. NCRT has, through its regional institutes of education, has various innovative pre-service teacher education programs,
Right.
B.Ed programs, M.Ed programs, 2-year B.Ed programs, 4-year B.Ed programs, etc. So that is towards developing a holistic teacher or all-round qualities of the teacher. Once these teachers are into the system, there are a lot of updation and new things coming up. So capacity building of teachers also becomes very important. So time to time, like who would have thought about the digital initiatives which have invaded in our classroom and are helping the teacher immensely. We have seen teachers developing their own apps, teachers using computers, children using computers, children using computer in the classroom as a teaching aid, and teachers are also updating their knowledge, various online courses which have been developed by even NCRT, and which are being many teachers are being benefited. So these programs we would have never thought of earlier, it wouldn't have been ever thought of. So now these, when you are talking of teacher training, it needs a constant updation from time to time. So there is a lot of training going on under these programs. In RMSA we saw a lot of training programs being conducted for gender concern, for making classroom inclusive, for capacity building, and we may develop so many packages in various subjects for which we carried out training in almost 18 states of this country, training the key resource person, and these trainings were further carried out in the state by these key resource person for the teachers. And we have constantly, as per the state demand also, these training programs are being conducted. But as far as the scheme is concerned, in this scheme we had been having a provision of training the teachers, and that now rests with the state. The state can conduct training programs with the help of NCRTs or any other bodies, any other reputed bodies, so that the constant updating of the teachers' knowledge and capacity building will be done.
Right. So ma'am, concerning this scheme Samagra Shiksha, do we have anything on the internet, on the digital arena that people can read and understand?
Yeah, when the scheme was launched, on the MHRD portal there is a link given in which the entire draft document, which gives detailed provisions in the scheme and how these three schemes, the scheme of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan and the teacher education were converged, and what are the various provisions which are available, how these provisions can be utilized, and what is the funding pattern, how actually the funds are provided through the project approval board, and every state prepares its annual work plan and prepares the budget, and according to the state needs and the decisions of the PAB, the states are providing the funding for that various initiatives under the scheme.
Right.
And PAB is an yearly yearly event.
Okay. So ma'am, till now if we just talk about the main outcomes we have got from this scheme.
See, it has only, if we talk about the outcomes, the scheme is first time, the first year of implementation. This is the first financial year which is being implemented. The outcomes would come when we would carry out in the next PAB. We would see the increase in enrollment rate or retention rate, or increase in quality through National Achievement Survey. We would find out whether the learning outcomes have been enhanced. Do we need any interventions? How the digital infrastructure has helped, even for developing the digital infrastructure and carrying out various programs. We have been carrying out at CIT, we have been developing lot of digital programs, digital resources, the National Repository of Open Educational Resources, then various programs, various in-service programs, various online programs are also being developed. So they are all to help the teacher, and then we have 24-hour channels also which are catering to the improvement of the quality of teachers. That is also under the scheme.
Right. Ma'am, you mentioned the online programs. So how they can enroll in that, or what kind of programs are available online?
These programs on the NCERT portal also we have various in-service teacher programs, and these programs cater to various subjects.
Okay.
And a lot of programs are available in science teaching, in internship, in education, so and so on and so forth. These programs are also available. The teacher can enroll in this program, and most of these programs to my knowledge are free of cost. So it adds to the knowledge of the teacher also, and the teacher can remain constantly updated. While I would just like to share a very interesting episode. I interacted with lot of teachers who came for these ICT awards. One thing very interesting which I came to note, that they are constantly updating. They are looking at the resources available at various national portals, and they are very well aware of various schemes which are being carried out and what are the provisions of the scheme, and they try to utilize the provisions to the optimum. And this is what brings them to that level. And that I interacted with many teachers who have developed apps on their own and are using the NCERT material, the other material which is available on which is even all our packages which we prepare, all our modules which we prepare are available on the NCERT website online for every teacher to see, use in the classroom. So they all have one thing in common, that they are constantly using this material in the classroom regularly.
Right. Ma'am, I was reading one article and I got to know that not much of the people are aware of Samagra Shiksha. So if you could just let them know the main point of it.
The main point is Samagra means as a whole. So the main point is, see, the focus is on improving quality of education. When we talk in terms, a lot has been done. There are a lot of improvements which are taking place. However, you know, it's when we compare in a country like ours, it appears like a drop in the ocean.
Right.
So constant and improvement of quality is a constant endeavor. And quality is such a dynamic word that, you know, I achieve certain benchmark today, and it is not that my race stops there. You have to constantly strive to get on a better benchmark and improve the quality. So many new things keep on coming up. So one has to be aware of that. If in terms of this scheme for everyone, this is a scheme in which the center is supporting the state to improve the quality of education from preschool to 12th class.
Right.
There are provisions for teachers, there are provisions for schools, there are provisions for infrastructures, there are provision for children with special needs, there are provision for vocational education, there's and so on and so forth. Children with special needs also,
Right.
and lot of including providing ICT infrastructure, providing resources, providing soft skills, providing support, providing providing training in usage of the programs, usage of the software, integrating technology in the classroom. All the scheme has varied provisions.
Right. So today we understood the Samagra Shiksha and how it is promoting the school education, basically universal access of school education to every children, and also we understood how teacher education is being integrated to it to facilitate effective convergence. Thank you Dr. Sharad. Dr. Sharad, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Tomorrow we will talk on solution, which is a class 12th chemistry topic, and also we have a very special live program tomorrow on the topic of significance of developing self for school leadership, and the timing will be 4:45 to 5:15 p.m. in the evening, and do not forget to watch it. Till then, take care and keep watching Kishore Manch.